Good morning. Good morning. This is Rebecca Simon Peter with Leadership Mojo. And I'm here to talk to you today about being unplugged like Jesus. I was just reading in my Bible about Jesus and going off into the wilderness and how he went. And one thing that occurred to me is that when Jesus went into the wilderness, he did not bring his phone. He didn't bring his laptop. He didn't bring his calendar. He didn't bring his agenda. He didn't bring any of that. Jesus went out into the wilderness. He stepped away from all the trappings of his work. And he worked, believe me, he worked. But he traveled without all of those things, without the first century trappings of work. He left behind everything to go renew his soul. Well, I was in the Pacific Northwest celebrating my 20th anniversary for the first time in the Pacific Northwest with friends a couple weeks ago. And I was not going to go unplugged like Jesus. I was bringing my laptop. I was bringing my calendar. Definitely had my cell phone. What if somebody needed to reach me? Yes, I knew it was vacation, but what if? And my spiritual director put a hard stop to that. She said, no, no, no. She said, you want to connect with God? You got to leave all that stuff behind. Well, at first I resisted. I can't remember the last time I really went anywhere without my calendar, without my laptop. Those elements of mobile work life have been with me forever. And what if somebody needed me? How would I journal? Because I journal in my laptop. So how am I really going to stay connected or schedule in something for the future? But I felt really, really resistant and naked. But underneath all those issues, all those things that I was saying was a deeper concern. Who would I be if I didn't have that stuff with me? Who would I be without work? And the answer to that question became clear because I did obey. I did obey my spiritual director. I left behind my calendar. I left behind my laptop. I brought my cell phone, but I didn't spend that much time on it. And what I discovered is who I would be is present to God, present to my soul, present to myself, present to my husband, present to the friends, present to the gorgeous trees and water in the Pacific Northwest. I grew up in Connecticut, tons of trees, but these trees were like 100 feet taller than anything I'd been around before. And it was so beautiful. And, like other spiritual leaders, I more regularly than I care to admit fall into the trap of being busy for God instead of being busy with God, being engaged with God, being present for God. And my recent wilderness sojourn really showed me the difference of like doing, and like doing God stuff or spiritual stuff or church stuff, the difference between that and actually being present. Mindfulness is a really big term for quite a while now. It's something that's been missing for so many of us. And as spiritual leaders, it's so important for us to be mindful, or should I say, be spiritful, be present to our spirit. There's a really long biblical tradition of unplugging in order to be present. I mean, you look at the creation story, God unplugs. It says that God rested from all God's work that God had been doing, or all the making that God had been doing. Now, if God can rest from God's own creative work in order to take a day off, a Sabbath day, if Jesus can go out into the wilderness and trust the unplugging, not even wanting to bring his disciples, his apostles with him, but just go by himself. If God can do that, if Jesus can do that, who are we to say, sorry, I know better than you. I got to bring all this stuff with me. I can't help but wonder what 21st century would be like if we spent less time plugged in to the world around us and more time plugged in to God. I mean, I think about social media and I think about what a blessing it is. And I also think about what a terrible, terrible thing it is. The way that we can get so manipulated. First off, feeling less than other people if you don't get the number of likes that everybody else seems to have. Um, it's an internal self manipulation of one's own significance or one's value to connect it out with how many people may be looking at your page or whatever. So that's the first thing. I think that our self-esteem would be in better shape. And I think about what kids go through and the kind of cyberbullying that happens and how tuned in they are, like that's life. What happens on social media, virtual media is life versus actually happens in real life. But there's the divisiveness and the polarization that happens. And that is not accidental. I got to tell you that. That is on purpose. That is intentional. And it's stoked by provocative clickbait and provocative headlines and outrageous claims that are made. It's designed to get you to click, and it's designed to provoke you, and it's designed to create a separation, a polarization. But God does not design us that way. God designs us to be connected, to be at one with each other, one with God, and one in unity and service to all the world, right? We know that. But we get so caught up in these other forms of communication that we literally cut ourselves off from our souls. I met with my book editor yesterday. I'm working on my next book, and it's called Believe Like Jesus. And it's really about how to embrace the very beliefs that Jesus had, because they're designed for us as well. And one of them is unity with God. Unity with God. When we know, not just here, but here, and we feel the unity with God, ain't no provocative clickbait going to separate us from each other, separate us from our soul, or separate us from God. That's the place I really want to see us get back to. Being unplugged restores a person, restores a person to a longer attention span, restores a person to relationships, restores a person to deep inner connection. We need that. As spiritual leaders, we especially need that. There was a time for me as a spiritual leader when I thought, what's all this talk about prayer and love? And, like, why are preachers always preaching on that? And I thought, we just really need to be paying attention to all the issues of the day. And yes, we do need to pay attention to the issues of the day, but we cannot deal well with the issues of the day if we are not deeply connected to the love that flows unhindered between us and God. We have to stay connected to our spirits, to our souls. So I'm here to make a plug for getting unplugged like Jesus, staying unplugged like Jesus, being unplugged, like when it's time to go away and reconnect with God. And for most of us, by the way, I think that ought to be every single day that we spend unplugged time with God. We got to have that time in order to be really well equipped to address the provocative issues of the day, to address the manipulations that are so subtle, that are all around us, and to address what a life grounded in God looks like, feels like, and invite other people into that. So unplug like Jesus, be an unplugged like Jesus. We need that deep nourishment of the soul. And I want to invite you into that process for yourself on a daily basis. I would say, hey, let's meet on Facebook and do it together, but that's just the opposite of what we're after here. So that's the message for today. Leadership Mojo requires spending time unplugged, connecting with God, connecting with your soul, connecting with your people, connecting with your life. And it's not a virtual life, it's a real life. Do not surrender that privilege of the real life to the easy mediocrity of social media life. All right. Thanks for being with me today. I hope you appreciate this. I appreciate being with you and putting the message out there. Check our workout at RebeccaSimonPeter.com. And of course, you can find me on social media. Don't spend too much time there, but do come and check out what we're doing. What we're really about is empowering people to discover their inner divinity. And that's through our program, Creating a Culture of Renewal, where you really get to learn how to dream like Jesus, co-create miracles with Jesus, and the other work that we are about. So I look forward to connecting with you more in the future. Thanks for being here. Don't forget, if you don't get anything else done today, spend some time unplugged with Jesus so that you too can connect deeply with your soul. Take care. Bye.